our appointed hour, actually a little beyond, so I'd like to call us to order. And take an attendance rate. Now on to public comment. Is there any public comment? Okay. Then we'll move on to the consent agenda, which is made up of 3 items: minutes of the September 4th meeting, the financial reports, and the staff reports. Are there any items that any of the commissioners would like to pull off? Additional discussion? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Second? Thank you, Jim. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. We're now on to the regular agenda, which is primarily issues removed from the consent agenda, which we have none. And so I will now go to item 6A, which is the presentation of the College Education Center, and Ray introducing Executive Director.
We are privileged, and thanks for the patience of Michael, the EAC, the Ecology Action Center. Actually, we work on different fronts. Starting here, but the history between Ecology Action Center and CRPC went way back, and also other governmental agencies, entities, governments, and so we are just privileged to have EAC in our community, and then led by Michael, who is the executive director. So without further ado, Michael, the microphone and the cameras.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Thank you. I'm just gonna be right here so I can pop through my slides real quick. So appreciate this opportunity to come speak to you. And yeah, Ray and I trying to make this happen for a while, and it's nice to finally be here. First and foremost, if you're not familiar with our facility, our office, Town Normal, it is actually the oldest house in the Town of Normal. It is the Hewitt House of early ICU President Hewitt. We've fitted it with geothermal heating and cooling, weatherization, as a nice model demonstration that if we make our building that's 160 years old energy efficient, you can make your home energy efficient as well. So come check us out if you've not been by to visit us. We do act as the environmental sustainability agency here in Bloomington Normal and McLean County. We work very closely with all the governmental entities to meet a variety of needs and environmental mandates. A lot of this, it came back, originated way back when in the 50s and 60s, kind of the burgeoning environmental movement that I'm not going to go through each of these one by one, but of course, DET decimating the populations of birds of prey, the air quality in our cities was just atrocious, the Love Canal disaster, literally rivers on fire. These were just a lot of things motivating people to say, hey, we can do better. And through a lot of that came some of the first environmental regulations in the world. Most of these are still in place today and models for other communities, nations across the world as well. And so very excited about these things. We helped launch a lot of what we do depend upon today for a healthy and safe environment. Right here in Bloomington Normal, a lot was going on in 1970 for the very first Earth Day, including kind of the inception of what was our precursor, Operation Recycle, which was a one-day, one-time recycling drive. We had no recycling services here in Bloomington County in 1971 when this happened, but a group of people saw the need, wanted to demonstrate the feasibility, so they went and did it to show that there would be interest and that this was feasible. Unfortunately for them, unfortunately for us, they weren't able to stop at one thing of just be a demonstration and somebody else would take it over. They had to keep going, and so actually for a few decades, they provided recycling services here in our community, including starting to do education outreach in order to promote proper recycling in our community. Eventually in the 1990s, the municipalities started offering recycling services as part of their regular waste collection. So we, at that point, got out of that direct service, but really continued upon that road towards more education outreach, promoting sustainable practices in the community. I think I did see remotely that Mercy might be in attendance. So here, I do always like to bring this up. Mercy, as a student at ISU back in the day, was interns when Ecology Action Center, our educational center, is just opening up. So thanks, Mercy, for everything that she does. So all this kind of snowballed, and somewhere in here, McLean County had their very first recycling coordinator, as it became mandated by the state to have a countywide waste management plan. That didn't last very long. Regional planning actually took on the role for solid waste coordination for a brief period and contracted AC to do education outreach components. From there, we actually took on the whole thing. So a lot of this is tied to monitoring, our current capacity in our landfill, which of course we now have zero. Our landfill closed several years back, so all of our waste is now being exported outside the county. Hence the need for very good solid waste management plans. So just a couple years back, we did update, actually completely reboot the McLean County Bloomington Normal solid waste management plan for the next years, with the new conditions of having no local landfill and need to transport materials further away. What more can we do to help conserve more resources, recycle more, divert more for beneficial use, as opposed to sending it further away for permanent disposal in a hole in the ground? So one of our popular services that we run is called Recycle Coach. This is free recycling for all McLean County Bloomington Normal residents. This gives you address-specific information on recycling waste services available at your specific address. This can give you alerts on your recycling day, give you alerts on your trash day. This has all the answers. We have just like spreadsheets and spreadsheets and spreadsheets, and people would call us, and they stop by and we gotta look it up. They're very user-friendly, 24 hours a day, free for use through the browser or on your smartphone. This has become so successful for us. We were one of the first meetings in Illinois to use it. Actually, as of this year, Illinois EPA have a contract statewide, all communities services, and we helped lead the charge. So very grateful for that recognition of something works well. Related to solid waste, of course, is the bigger issue, the more big issue of household hazardous waste. How many of you were aware of our hazardous waste collection this past weekend? Very good. That's a very high percentage. Didn't want to call anybody out on that. So we worked very hard on that. Currently, it's about a once-a-year thing. That's not good enough. It's better than it was in the past. The best was about every year, sometimes every 5 years, and state funding. We created our own local fund using local public funding and fundraising private dollars to fill the gap when there is public funding. But the bigger picture horizon priority, permanent facility for McLean County, or here in McLean County or Central Illinois. We have a feasibility study for such a facility that should be finishing up here soon, which would really greatly increase access for disposal. Organics waste collection, recycling, since organics are responsible for methane emissions coming from our landfills, which are potent climate change and greenhouse gas. We created a few years back essentially a food composting program, a drop-off program, because it seems like the bulk of the population does not want to compost in their backyard. So a easy, convenient, low-cost way to do that. Beyond solid waste, because we've been a very effective partner for the local governments, we've helped them meet mandates, other needs, just other priorities in the community. One is stormwater education, stormwater runoff pollution in particular. We have a number of different programs and strategies that really help educate the public on ways to better produce or better protect our water supplies. One of which Sugar Creek boards, which is a volunteer-based riparian restoration project. We have work days once a month where volunteers come and help remove invasive vegetation, brush along our waterways, how we store native vegetation, which is better at filtering out stormwater pollutants, better for pollinator habitat, better for everything. Energy has been an increasing focus in the past 10, 15 years. Our energy program provides low-cost home energy audits, especially for income qualified houses where we can virtually waive the fee altogether, help very detailed recommendations and reports for residents how to best spend limited hours on getting the most energy efficient, best weatherization out of their home in order to save on utility bills and reduce the amount of fossil fuels that we're putting into heating and cooling our homes. Related to all these issues, we've been focusing more and more on environmental justice areas. These are just screen caps, and I can go great detail here, but from a tool from the US EPA called EJ Screen Tool, show a lot of kind of disproportionate environmental burden in various areas of our community when we cross-reference environmental indexes with indexes showing how many households of color, low-income households. What's particularly telling is where we get to some of these charts that show us low life expectancy in these areas where we have higher environmental burdens, all right? So the point being is that we do have disproportionate exposure to residents in our community, and how can we learn more about this and how to better address this issue that essentially is environmental justice. One of the factors in this is air quality, which is something we kind of take for granted, kind of like the water that comes out of the tap, turn on the faucet. We expect it to be healthy. We expect it to taste good. Once in a while, it might taste a little bit off, but it doesn't taste dangerous. So air quality, we generally take for granted. This is actually from yesterday. Our air quality is good. Nothing to worry about, right? It's all good. However, we did learn just a year or so back that it's not always good. In the summer of 2023, actually due to changing climate and the fact that now we can have significant fires in Canada in the middle of the summer, which didn't used to happen. We had a lot of particulate matter and other air pollution come down into the Midwest, creating some of the very worst air pollution I've ever seen in the area. I've never in my lifetime seen it get up purple rain that is dangerous for all populations. And so it's kind of helped make a lot of us aware that we shouldn't take air quality for granted. When we talk about air quality, we're talking primarily about 6 different regulated pollutions. These are combined with the NAAQS, National Ambient Air Quality Standards. These came about, again, through some of that radical, revolutionary environmental legislation that actually was bipartisan. This is the crazy part, all right? So we had cooperation for the environment and for public health. I would love to see this kind of cooperation happen sometime in our lifetime. Because this really has been the base of what we've been working on to improve public health in our communities. So more specifically on these air pollutants, one of particular concern is ozone, which in itself is not a primary pollutant. There isn't anybody who's releasing ozone in the community, but rather it's the combination of a few other primary pollutants. So nitrogen oxides, volatile organic compounds, both of which can come from combustion, fossil fuels, or from industrial sources. These combined with sunlight create this ground level ozone, which is definitely a public health threat, contributing significantly to respiratory disease, emphysema, TB, asthma, all of these issues. And the fact is, and this again gets us back to that take it for granted. So, you know, the standards for these things change over time. Why is this standard that's up here? And back here, 10, 12 years ago, we were within that standard, but then that standard has been tightened down for how much ozone is allowable. Reality is we have historically exceeded that current standard. Which tells us that can happen now, anytime here in our community, right? And as we've already made a point, it has significant public health impacts. It also has other impacts to our community. So anyone who's lived in Chicago or any bigger urban area has been likely subject to mandatory vehicle emissions testing, which isn't fun or cheap. But that's one of the ramifications, and that's actually the easy one. There can also be a very significant impact on industry and economic growth. And so once an area is non-attainment, which is not meeting, you know, the allowable limit for any of those regulated areas, which are non-attainment, then all these other ramifications kick in, which includes anybody who has an air quality permit, any industrial source, when they go to renew it, it's going to be tightened down, all right? It's not going to be as easy to get that renewed. Any new industrial source, as we're right now trying to grow, you know, with Rivian and partners in the community, really seeing this economic boom, we had other industrial partners support Rivian and needed an air quality permit, and yet non-attainment might not be able to get home. So this really can stifle economic growth in addition to public health impacts. These are probably way at a scale for our community, but yet this is just a quick here. This was some projects in Texas, and the economic impact from non-attainment delays in projects that had to be postponed, canceled, whatsoever. We're talking into the millions and billions of dollars economic impact from non-attainment for air quality standards. And again, completely separate from the public health impacts. So those things we want to keep in mind. Air quality is something we do have access to. Air Now is an app that the EPA runs, US EPA, in partnership with local EPA, our Illinois EPA. Go to the website, install it on your phone. It does provide some good data. This is not from today, what day I screenshot this, but my point here, this is all the air quality monitors US EPA or Illinois EPA have for our community. This is all of them. See how many there are? One. Right? So what does that one air quality monitor tell us really about potential disproportionate impacts to different populations in the community to be closer to sources of air pollution? Tells us nothing. Right. So seeing this need a few years back, and especially looking at the environmental justice areas that we're familiar with in Bloomington and Normal, primarily West Bloomington, North Normal areas, through a new US EPA grant, a partnership of multiple organizations, DC, State University, NAACP, a bunch of other government and community groups. Doing this, we've created this new project, BN Care, Bloomington Community Air Research and Education. We just had a big launch 2 weeks ago. It's one of our monitors in West Bloomington, right on West Market Street, property owned by Mount Church. So we have that, and we have one down in Washington Street, West Washington, and what up in North Normal in Fairview by McLean County's nursing home. Right, so I invite you all to go to this website, bncare.org. At any time, you can see real-time data from any of our air monitors here in town. You can also, right here, by this stop sharing, but for text alerts. All right, you sign up for text alerts, you can sign up for all of them, or for one of the monitors if you live near one, and if any given day have an air quality alert, essentially bad air pollution, you can get notified of that and what you can do to prevent your family air pollution. So this project is really designed to give us information on that disproportionate impact that we believe is there. Along the way, we're building a clean air coalition of community groups, governmental groups, industry partners, so that with learning more about this issue, assuming we do find problems, how do we collaboratively address these problems in order to improve quality for all residents of our community. Related to air quality, we've long been doing work in greenhouse gas emissions for Bloomington Normal. We've done different greenhouse gas emissions inventories, which is essentially quantifying where all of our greenhouse gas emissions coming from. That's what industries, what sectors, what types of activities, are there transportation, are they buildings, and done a few different analyses of that. And I go into this detail, but this is not really the time. Is that in itself take a couple hours, but the point being that data is then informing this process, essentially a strategy to help reduce some of those emissions, but also look at the energy needs of our community and plan for the big picture. So we're creating what's called a community energy strategic plan. This is a project, unfortunately, that got stalled during COVID. We do have some brand new funding from Illinois EPA through the ECB program. And so very excited we'll be restarting that program and actually expanding at this point to not regional urban, but to the entire county at the same time. So very excited about that. We're gonna, the point here with all my animations, there's, as we move towards our strategies to better improve air quality and reduce air carbon emissions in our community, one of the most well-established, well-documented, cost-effective means to do both of these things is tree planting projects. So a few years back, we created what we call the Tree Corps, which is a volunteer-based massive tree planting initiative for McLean County, Bloomington Normal. We have hundreds and hundreds of volunteers every year help us out in the spring and plant thousands of little berry seedlings. We also have worked with many different partner organizations, including Friends of the Trail, done a lot of sapling trees on new trail extensions. Just an example here of a number of the projects that we've been working on. Increasingly, we're trying to focus in on the urban area. That's essentially the need for the trees are. As we try and plant 10,000 trees a year for at least 10 years, 100,000 trees, using some of the calculators that are out there from the U.S. Forest Service, we're able to extrapolate the impacts from that in terms of the over 600,000 tons of carbon emissions removed, over 7 million pounds of ozone removed, 1 million pounds of nitrogen dioxide, 200,000 pounds of sulfur dioxides, 600,000 pounds of particulate matter, and as well the side benefit that's 2 trillion gallons of stormwater runoff if we're successful in planting all these trees. And that's just in the first 10 years, which of course was just a placeholder until we see how this goes. So let's keep going for a few more decades. But as I've mentioned before, this environmental justice area, especially West Bloomington, really where some of the greatest need is, some of the greatest environmental burdens. And so we're focusing a lot of effort there. A second new federal PA project is funding what we call the BNCRC, in which we're working directly with Westside residents and trying to ascertain specific climate impact threats to environmental justice residents. A few years back, there was significant flooding and sewer backup. A lot of it disproportionately in homes of Westside residents. We have, what we assume is greater air pollution issues. So we're going to find out about that. Just really trying to identify what are the greater risks and impacts to each area of residents and formulate a plan of how to address that. And at the same time, again, be working on more trees. Tree equity is a concept that really is all about trying to put trees where they're most needed, not where they're most easy to plant, not where it's convenient to plant trees, but where they're needed instead in terms of putting them in areas where air quality is poor, putting them where they're going to reduce those hot temperatures during heat events, especially putting them in areas that have what's called a low tree equity score, that if you look at our different blocks here, the ratio of trees per capita and area, we have definite areas that have a low tree equity. That's worth improving that. And so that is a special focus of our new tree planting through that BNCRC effort. So I tried to run out through a lot right there. And I think I crammed it all in without going over too much.
Questions for Michael?
Michael, is solar panels your scope?
We have done a number of different solar projects. Years ago, we did group purchase programs where we would through an RFP, hire a contractor, spend a few months, a whole bunch of households, got the price down through a group purchase. That's been very successful. We haven't done the past few years because of the state's Solar for All, which is an income qualified program. So we've now stepped away from that. So in this next year, we are probably going to start resuming the purchase program, which really for kind of middle income households makes it very affordable to go to solar.
What is that solar field South Main, south of town? Yes, State Park.
So I believe that's one of the community solar installations, and so it's going to be an alternative when you don't have suitable roof, you have too many trees, roof's too old, and you want to put a brand new solar system on an old roof because you had to move it to move on in years, which costs money. Community solar is a subscription-based system. But yes, there's a larger, installation of that somewhere, and you are purchasing power from that. Technically, it's all just through the grid, but it's essentially as if you had your system. You can X amount for the course of the year. There actually is cost savings to it as well, 10 and 20% off of the supply cost from average right now. If you're income qualified household through the Solar for All program, you can actually get 50% off hammering supply rate through that. It's essentially an easier, more accessible way to do solar if you don't want the hassle or afford the hassle installation, simply just don't have site. Even apartment renters can sign up for community solar, get the benefits of solar without getting permission to put a solar installation on top of the apartment building.
Unit 5 is a great story on installing geothermal in a school building. You can always talk about the millions of dollars that we've saved or been able to reallocate toward operations and make a number of Energy Star buildings. So any opportunity to make that a plug, I appreciate it. It's a great story.
So meters on that, that's just incredible.
And Michael, how many organizations like this exist in the state?
So Carl's giving me a softball question. There's zero. We're the only organization in Illinois, and actually, to my knowledge, at least anywhere, we are unique in what we do, unique in the way we do it. Some of what we do is done by governmental entities. And for example, the solid waste aspect briefly held by regional planning, back some years ago. And in other places, like the solid waste planning is done by one person at the county, or maybe it's just a planner somewhere. That's like a quarter of their job. Whereas we have consolidated all these functions on the roof. And so, we have cost efficiency there, and you have the environmental staff here local. So, able to do more, and especially right now in this era, a lot of environmental funding available to the federal government. We're no longer just responding to needs from local government agencies and trying to environmental mandate, rather trying to get out ahead. And we are aware of the problems. We see funding out. We create. So we go to the governmental entities and say, hey, we're back packets on this. We've kind of the relationship somewhat in leading sort of and working at a good track record, even though it's and so it's all working very well.
So it's one of the strengths of the community. So,
And I should say, especially since I have a board member here, is board long better, that we are also a donation membership based organization. So donations are always appreciated at any size.
any other questions for Mike?
I just had a friendly reminder, if anybody knows of anybody with campaign signs in their yard, you can take those to the bins behind your building. I filled those up at the end of recent spring elections. Thank you.
Yeah, they are recyclable, just not curbside. So we take them all in one on those fiber and happy to take them out. They just don't work well through their sorting system.
Signs in the metal.
Yes. Thank you all, and feel free to always reach out to us. We're here for all these things and to help everybody. We have a good relationship with regional. Everybody just, in this day and age, the partnerships. So look forward to many more years.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate it. We're now moving on to item 6B, which is the regional housing initiatives update. Mark?
So last month, MCRPC staff facilitated the quarterly Affordable and Supportive Housing Committee meeting. We do that, of course, quarterly. So we have usually people from housing, affordable housing, and rec services meet for this and really discuss federal, state updates. So this time when we met, we had McLean County Behavioral Health Coordination Director Marita Landreth provide an update and a brief presentation on the recent structural changes to the behavioral health coordination. There's been a lot of changes there at the BHC in the last 3 months. So there was a brief presentation kind of talking to that relation, especially with McLean County Health Department. So there's definitely some differentiation happening there at the respective boundaries for the 2025-2029 consolidated plan that we're working on with the city. We're in the thick of it right now. Staff have completed the first draft of our data analysis report for the survey that we did over the 6-month period. The total received was about a little over 2,100 individual responses from the Bloomington Normal community. And right now we are now looking at trying to bundle the outreach analysis right now between town halls, virtual town halls, the focus groups one-on-one. So we're really trying to wrap it up this month. And then staff, we also met with city, town, and path to plan for next steps on community outreach, which is just a couple one-on-one interviews with key stakeholders. We had one just last week with Connect Transit that went really well, and we have 2 more coming up. So really, November we'll be cranking out the impediments to fair housing analysis, and then working on the actual document of the December. So no rest through Christmas. Regional Housing Recovery Plan updates. We're just awaiting the result of the MCRPC application to DCO for the RISE Implementation Grant. And last but not least, staff attended the Missoula Housing for All meeting in Montana, part of the Invest Health 4.0 collaboration grant. So happy to answer any questions on housing.
Any questions? No. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it. Ray, I think you're up next with the Human Services Transportation Plan.
Thank you. James at the fall planning conference, so I'm doing the update, HSTP, Human Service Transportation Plan. And as you recall, that we were going to have a meeting, which we did back in September at Pontiac. That is the this regional, because it's a regional plan with 5 counties involved: Livingston, Fort, Iroquois, Kankakee, and McLean. And so there was a meeting with the joint policy committee and technical committee. But since that's over the course of COVID, basically we had the quorum for the policy committee. And so they discussed the implementation of the plan that was adopted June of this year, and looking at bylaws and structuring, was trying to get members to attend meetings, and representation from other counties is hard because it's got a lot of rural area, which encompasses many square miles, and just to get representation. So we're looking at how to make that process a little bit easier, and representation from the counties to send the representatives to serve on the technical and policy committee. And so that's ongoing. Another thing just for to bring to your attention, IDOT is opening up a new round of application for what they call the consolidated vehicle procurement grants, and it will be opening in upcoming spring. But just so you know, the last round is still pending, so it takes a lot of processing time for them to get all those worked out. But that's on the update.
Okay. Also, Veterans Parkway Corridor Plan update.
Yes.
So that's your step.
Yes, thank you. Since our approval of the contract last month at the CRPC meeting, staff have had a few meetings with the consultants in terms of coordination, the engagement plan, and so that's ongoing. And the consultants has also some data collection. You may not have noticed, but they have collect some data, by tape tubes, on Veterans Parkway, different locations, just to get the traffic counts. And so just different times a day during the course of 1 week. And so we continue to work with the consultants, give you a monthly update.
Good. And then, are there any other topics that need to come before the commission today? I thought you had one.
Yeah, I just want to mention October is the National Community Planning Month. And so it's something advocated by the National American Planning Association, but really what it is to promote and to emphasize planning is important to build a greater, better community, which you are part of the effort. And staff is, and we will all work together. And EAC, a lot of different members and organizations will where that goes. So it's a national thing. Just want to be aware of it. Get the word out. National Community Planning Month. And if I may, we have a new intern that I would like to introduce you to. Is Natalie Romero, and I'll let her to introduce herself.
Hello, my name is Natalie Romero. I live in Illinois Wesleyan Senior Student, double major in environmental studies, international.
So we glad to have her, and maybe she can connect with EAC and get some work and some data that we need on some of our projects too.
Good. Great.
Thanks.
Is there any other topics that need to come before the commission before we adjourn? If not, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any other, or all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. Thank you.